Welcome, everyone, to a trip back in time to ancient Egypt. Here, magic and the supernatural were part of daily life. Did the pharaohs have special powers, or was it just a myth? It's both a puzzle and a look into their minds.
It is interesting, Michelle. Egyptian writings say pharaohs were like demigods. They could talk to gods and control nature. The Temple of Karnak is a good example. Its alignment with stars is so exact. Some say it was done with divine help or lost scientific knowledge.
These stories are interesting, but we need to find what's real. The Karnak alignment and other wonders can be explained with advanced earthly knowledge. Egyptians knew a lot about astronomy early on. It shows their science skill, not supernatural help.
You both have good points, but I think Egyptian culture was very symbolic. Magic and rituals were not just for control. They kept society in order. Even if myths are false, these ideas shaped their culture. Was their strength psychological as well as scientific?
So, was it all about making people believe in their power? Did this keep the throne safe? Or are there parts of their beliefs and practices we still don't get, maybe like unknown science? This question about if pharaohs had magic powers is very interesting. We've talked about science and culture before. Now, let's see how they did magic every day.
It's important to know that magic in ancient Egypt was more than just spells. The things they used for rituals had special meanings. They used gold and lapis lazuli because they thought these had special powers. Some think they used these because of how they looked with light.
Yes, Guy. The materials they used show they knew a lot about managing resources. Egyptians were very good at working with metals. This seemed like magic, but was really skill. It wasn't just mysticism, it was science they learned over time.
I agree with both of you, but these magic practices also showed power. Big, impressive rituals could make people believe they worked. This psychological side made their rituals more than just superstition. Did pharaohs keep their power by making people feel both scared and amazed?
That's an interesting point, Sonia. The power of a big show is important, but are we missing some parts of their magic that might be like science today? Maybe they used early forms of psychology or physics. What if these magic practices were like early mental techniques or ways to use the environment?
Egyptians have records showing they used chants in medical treatments, like using sound to calm or heal. This could mean a mix of science and magic. Maybe history hides truths we now see as magical stories.
That's a good point, Guy. Modern science looks at sound therapy for healing, too. We should tell apart early science and magic. Can we learn more by studying these old rituals in modern ways?
If we study these rituals scientifically, as Ryan suggested, we might find they were early science and not magic. But does knowing more take away the mystery? Does it turn myths into just old science?
This brings up a question about how we see history. Is it more important to know the truth or to enjoy the mix of beliefs and mysteries? Maybe we're just starting to understand their world. We talked about magic in ancient Egypt. Now let's focus on the pharaohs. Were they magicians, scientists, or both?
Pharaohs were seen as go-betweens for gods and people. Maybe their powers let them change how things looked or worked. The Great Pyramid might show they knew how to use the Earth's energy for spiritual reasons.
The pyramid lines up exactly with the compass points. People think that's mystical, but it's from careful star watching. Seeing the pharaoh as godlike could be old advertising, mixing science and religion to keep power.
Interesting thoughts. This mix of science and religion shows a unique way of thinking. It makes us think about what we call supernatural today. When a pharaoh said spells during natural events, was it magic or early psychology and nature knowledge?
Maybe their magic was using knowledge to lead people and keep order. What parts of their beliefs could be true that we don't understand yet?
Some texts say pharaohs controlled weather. That sounds like fiction, but now we study controlling the weather. We can make rain with cloud seeding today. Maybe they had some basic idea of these things.
Yes, as tech grows, what seems unreal can become real. Old wisdom might mix science, watching, and myths, creating stories we think of as magic now.
Maybe by studying their rituals, we see the ideas of today's growing science. Do we only believe proven facts, or do we have beliefs without proof like they did?
This makes us ask a bigger question. Do we take history as it is told, or find hidden wisdom in it? The Pharaohs' world shows more than magic. It's a reminder that how we see things shapes what we understand. So, where do we find the line between real history and the magic that makes ancient Egypt interesting? We talked about the Pharaohs' supposed magical powers. Are they misunderstood scientists, smart rulers, or both?
Great question, Michelle. Pharaohs were not just leaders, they were seen as gods. Their burial sites, like the Valley of the Kings, are lined up with stars and river paths that seem very precise. Was this smart astronomy or something divine?
The way the pyramids are lined up with the Valley of the Kings seems magical, but there's proof that Egyptians were good at studying the stars and measuring land. They watched the stars closely and matched their buildings to the sky, linking their rule with the heavens.
Good point, Ryan. But Egyptian culture was full of symbols. The way they lined up buildings wasn't just about science, but maybe to support the idea that pharaohs were gods. Were these practices an early way to use beliefs for society?
It seems like the pharaohs used the best knowledge of their time to stay in power and be remembered. By mixing real and magical, did they create a lasting image because of its mystery? Are there leadership ideas we still use today?
Yes, ideas like divine right to rule are used today, with leaders telling powerful stories. Pharaohs were good at this, maybe believing it and using it strategically. We need to understand ancient texts for both hidden tech and their smart words.
And remember, what we now call science and what was magic before is still very close. Fields like quantum mechanics confuse us now like Egyptian knowledge did. What's possible changes over time.
From that view, future historians might think our science and beliefs are like our kind of magic. Egyptians used their environment well, mixing their beliefs with practical things. Were they making a guide for mixed science?
Interesting ideas, everyone. It's exciting how the mix of facts and mystery helps us learn more. In looking at the past, maybe the real magic is in the mysteries that make us keep asking questions. We've looked at how the pharaohs might have used magic and science, but let's look closer. Are we saying it's magic because we don't understand their context, or is there a hidden science in these old ways?
Michelle, that's an important question. Look at the Great Sphinx, maybe built 4,500 years ago. Its exact position with the directions is surprising. Was this smart engineering, or maybe lost knowledge of using Earth's magnetism?
Good point, Guy. While it's precise, it fits with the ancient Egyptians' knowledge of the stars and shapes. They might have used simple tools and careful watching to do what seems magical now. It shows how advanced they were, much we can understand with archaeology and rebuilding.
But let's remember the cultural side. The Sphinx and pyramids mean more than just great buildings. They were made to link humans with gods, showing pharaohs as go-betweens. Could these buildings have been tools to create awe and control society?
It's interesting to think about these ideas. But are we looking at these mysteries with our modern thinking? Could their magical ways have been normal to them, but strange to us?
Yes, Michelle. Think about the stories of pharaohs controlling weather. We call that a myth today, but now we have science looking at climate control like cloud seeding. Were they trying simple forms of this?
We have modern ways now, but the idea of ancient weather control is probably exaggerated. However, watching nature long-term could have given them a deep understanding of seasons, which looks magical today.
Beyond science, their work makes us ask how we see the supernatural. Could the mix of nature, belief, and technology in ancient Egypt teach us today? Their all-in-one view might have blurred the line between science and magic.
Maybe the line between fact and myth was always unclear in history. When we only see what fits our science, do we miss the real ancient wisdom?
Maybe historians have often missed technology on the edge of science and myth, like the Antikythera mechanism, a start to complex machines and creative thinking in old cultures. What if Egypt had similar inventions, but they turned into magic over time?
We must remember that doubt isn't against mystery, but helps find answers. As science grows, what seemed magical becomes clear. In studying ancient Egypt, let curiosity and proof lead us, not fixed ideas.
The answer might be in accepting the unknown. Whether magic or misunderstood science, their mix of belief and learning left a mark that still teaches us. What can't be split might better both worlds' myth and science equally.
Maybe the real magic of ancient Egypt is not in clear answers, but in the talks it starts about human creativity, belief, and knowing. It makes us wonder how much of what we know now will seem magic in the future.